6 months after Andre Thibodeau lost his sight, his wife took the house, the car, the joint account, and 17 years of marriage and left him in a room above his own workshop on Bankhead Avenue with $4,200 and a darkness he could not negotiate alone. Every morning at 5:47, a woman he had never spoken to left something at his door. She did this for 3 years. Andre did not know her name. He did not know that 22 years earlier, he had done one thing for her. A small thing. A thing he had already forgotten. Martha Osei had not forgotten. The first morning was the quietest thing Andre had ever lived through. He woke up at 6:14. He knew the time because the alarm on his phone spoke it out loud. He had set it to do that 3 weeks ago, when the last of the light went. He reached for the nightstand. His hand found the edge. Then the surface. The lamp was gone. Denise had taken the lamp. The photograph of Elijah and Naomi at Stone Mountain was gone. She had taken that too. He sat on the edge of the bed for a while. The sheets smelled different. Not wrong, just less. The perfume Denise wore for 17 years, something with jasmine in it, that she ordered from the same place every November, was not in the room anymore. Not on the pillow. Not on the bathroom counter. Not anywhere. What was left was the smell of pine floorboards and old dust and the faint bite of wood stain that had been in this building since before Andre moved his tools into the shop downstairs. He stood up. His left hand found the wall. His feet counted the steps. 7 from the bed to the bathroom door. 3 from the door to the sink. He had been practicing this for weeks before the last of the light closed in, walking the apartment with his eyes shut, memorizing the distance between everything he needed. The body learns what the eyes forget. Muscle holds what the mind lets go of. He brushed his teeth. He found the toothpaste by the shape of the cap. He found the towel by the hook on the back of the door. He did not reach for the second hook. That hook was empty now. He walked to the kitchen. 9 steps from the bathroom, left turn at the hallway corner. The kitchen table was there. He pulled out his chair. He sat down. His hand moved across the surface to the other side out of habit. Denise's placemat was gone. Her coffee mug, the white one with the chip on the handle she refused to throw away for 11 years, was not on the shelf above the sink. He checked. His fingers moved across the shelf. Glasses, 1 bowl, a gap where the mug used to sit. The apartment was above the workshop. 2 rooms, a bathroom, a kitchen the size of a closet. This was the space Andre had used for storage when business was steady. Denise had taken the house on Larkin Street. She had taken the Chevrolet. She had taken the joint account down to $4,200 and left the rest in legal language. Andre could not read anymore, even if he wanted to. He sat at that kitchen table and listened. The building was quiet. Bankhead Avenue outside the window was not. A truck passed, then another, then a sound he had not paid attention to before. Wheels on concrete. Small wheels. A cart or something with weight on it rolling down the sidewalk across the street. It passed, and then it stopped. It stopped at the same place every morning. He did not know that yet. He would learn it over the days and weeks ahead. The sound of those wheels at the same hour each morning would become the most reliable thing left in his life. Andre did not move from that chair for a long time. Not because he had nowhere to go, because the darkness was still new, and the silence where Denise used to be was something he had not yet learned to sit inside of without reaching for a thing that was no longer there. Andre Thibodeau was 53 years old, born in the lower 9th Ward of New Orleans in 1971. His grandfather, Solomon Thibodeau, ran a woodworking shop on Dauphine Street for 40 years. Not a business with a sign out front and a website. A shop. A room with tools and wood, and a man who knew what to do with both. Solomon built pews for Mount Zion Baptist Church. He built bookshelves for the elementary school on St. Claude Avenue. He built kitchen tables and bed frames and rocking chairs for families in the 9th Ward who could not afford what the furniture stores in the quarter were charging. He built with oak when he could get it, and pine when he could not, and whatever else came through the door when times were lean. His hands never stopped. Not when his wife passed. Not when his son left New Orleans for Houston and did not come back. Not when the neighborhood changed around him, and the younger men went to work in construction, or shipping, or left for cities where the money was faster. Andre started working beside Solomon when he was 11, not because anyone told him to, because the shop was where Solomon was, and Solomon was the only person in Andre's life who was always in the same place doing the same thing. His mother worked 2 jobs. His father was a name on a photograph in a drawer. Solomon was the constant, and the shop was where the constant lived. Andre learned to plane wood before he learned to drive. He learned to read grain patterns before he learned to read contracts. He learned that a joint cut wrong by a 1/16 of an inch would fail under weight, and that there was no shortcut for getting it right. Solomon told him once, "That wood does not lie. You can lie to a person. You can lie on paper. You cannot lie to a piece of oak. It knows what you did. It holds the proof." By the time Andre was 20, his hands could do what Solomon's hands did. Not as fast, not with the same certainty, but close. Solomon died in 2003, quietly in the back room of the shop on Dauphine Street, 2 years before the storm took everything else. Andre kept the shop open. He kept the tools. He kept the workbench Solomon had built in 1968 that had never been replaced because it did not need to be replaced. Then Katrina came. August 2005. The water took the 9th Ward, and it took the shop, and it took the workbench, and it took every tool Solomon had touched for 40 years. Andre stood in what was left afterward. He did not stay long. There was nothing to stay for. He packed what could fit in a bag. He drove to Atlanta because someone he knew from church had a cousin there who said there was work. He arrived on Bankhead Avenue in September of 2005 with $1,100, a bag of clothes and hands that knew how to build. He rented a ground floor space on the avenue. The building was old. The landlord did not ask many questions. Andre put his tools in the front room and a mattress in the back and started taking orders from the neighborhood. Kitchen cabinets, shelving units, tables, bed frames. Word moved quietly through Bankhead, and then through the West End, and then through Vine City. A man from New Orleans who could build anything with his hands and charged fair prices and showed up when he said he would show up. He built the shop into something steady. Not wealthy. Steady. Enough to pay rent. Enough to buy materials. Enough to eat and to put money aside slowly in an account. Denise would later empty. His hands built every piece that left that shop for 18 years. His name was on the sign above the door. Andre Thibodeau's Woodwork and Custom Builds, Bankhead Avenue, Atlanta, Georgia. That sign was still there the morning he woke up blind in the apartment above the shop with $4,200 left in the world. Denise Hargrove met Andre in 2007. She was 28. She worked at a real estate development company in Midtown that was renovating a row of houses near Ponce City Market. The company needed custom kitchen cabinets for a model home on North Highland Avenue. Someone on the crew mentioned a carpenter on Bankhead who did good work and did not overcharge. Denise drove out to the shop on a Wednesday afternoon. She saw the cabinets Andre was finishing for another client. She saw the shelving unit drying in the back. She saw the care in the joints and the finish, and the way nothing was rushed. She saw a man who built things. She did not see the man. She saw what he could build. Andre saw a woman who was smart and direct, and who asked about lead times and finishes and dimensions, the way someone asks who understands what she is buying. He liked that. He delivered the cabinets on time. He delivered them under budget. Denise called him for 2 more jobs that year. They married in 2007. Small ceremony. Andre's mother came from New Orleans. Denise's family came from Macon. The reception was in the backyard of the house Denise had just closed on, a 3-bedroom on Larkin Street in the West End that she had bought with her real estate commission and a loan Andre co-signed. He co-signed the loan. Her name went on the deed. That was how it started. For 17 years, Andre built. He built the porch on the Larkin Street house. He built the bookshelves in Elijah's room and the desk in Naomi's room. He built the dining table where Denise served Thanksgiving dinner every year for 14 years. He built cabinets for clients across Atlanta. He built bed frames for couples in Decatur and Kirkwood and East Point. He built a crib for Naomi before she was born. He built a toy chest for Elijah with the boy's name carved into the lid. Every dollar Andre earned went into the joint account Denise managed. She paid the bills. She filed the taxes. She handled the insurance. Andre signed what she asked him to sign, because that is what you do when you trust the person sitting across the breakfast table from you every morning for 17 years. You sign. You go back to the shop. You build the next thing. He did not read the refinancing paperwork in 2019. He did not read the updated insurance forms in 2021. He did not read the document that transferred full ownership of the Larkin Street house into Denise's name, only the house he had built, the porch and the bookshelves and the dining table for, with his own hands. He signed it all. Because Denise asked. Because he had no reason not to trust her. Andre built the house with his hands. Denise put her name on the deed. The first sign came in the fall of 2022. Andre was working on a set of dining chairs for a client in Buckhead. He noticed the edge of the wood going soft, not the wood itself. His eyes, the edges of his vision were blurring. Shapes at the far side of the shop looked like they had been rubbed with a thumb. He blinked. He wiped his face. He went back to work. 2 weeks later, the blurring was still there. He scheduled an appointment at an eye clinic in Midtown. The doctor was a woman named Ada Patterson. She ran the tests. She took images of the blood vessels behind his eyes. She sat him down afterward and explained what she found in terms Andre understood. The blood vessels behind his eyes were leaking. The leaking was slow. The damage was not. The condition was called diabetic retinopathy. Andre had been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes 6 years earlier. He managed it, not perfectly. He missed checkups. He skipped meals when work was heavy and ate late when the shop ran long. His blood sugar levels had been uncontrolled for longer than he realized. Dr. Patterson told him that diabetic retinopathy was the leading cause of blindness among working-age adults in the United States. She told him that Black Americans were nearly twice as likely to develop it as white Americans. She told him that early detection and management could slow it. She told him that in his case, the condition had progressed further than she would have liked. She used the word treatable. She also used the word irreversible. The treatable part meant laser surgery could slow the progression. The irreversible part meant the damage already done was not coming back. The surgery was expensive. Insurance covered part of it. Not enough. Andre asked how much time he had before the vision loss became total. Dr. Patterson did not give him a number. She said it depended on management and treatment and factors that were difficult to predict. It took 18 months. First the edges went soft. Then the colors faded. Reds became something closer to brown. Blues became gray. Then the faces of his children became shapes he had to guess at from across the room. He memorized them while he could. Elijah's jawline. Naomi's eyes. He looked at them longer than usual during dinner, and they noticed and asked if he was okay, and he said he was fine. He was not fine. He was watching his children disappear. Denise knew about the diagnosis from the beginning. She was in the room when Dr. Patterson explained it. She held Andre's hand in the car afterward. She was quiet on the drive home. She was quiet that evening. She was quiet the next morning. She stayed quiet for the next 3 weeks. Then she made a phone call. Denise scheduled a meeting with a divorce attorney 3 weeks after Dr. Patterson used the word irreversible. She did not tell Andre. She went during her lunch hour. She brought the deed to the Larkin Street house. She brought the bank statements. She brought the insurance documents. She brought everything Andre had signed over 17 years without reading. Andre was in the shop that afternoon finishing a bookcase for a church in College Park. His vision was already narrowing. He was working slower, more carefully, checking measurements by touch as much as by sight. He did not know that 2 miles away his wife was sitting across a desk from a lawyer, asking what she was entitled to and how quickly she could get it. The light closed in over the next 14 months. Andre adapted. He learned to measure by feel. He learned to sand by running his fingers across the grain. He learned to count steps and memorize the location of every tool on the bench. He kept working as long as he could. Denise kept managing the money. She kept filing paperwork. She kept being quiet in a way that Andre mistook for worry. It was not worry. It was preparation. The papers were served on a Tuesday morning. A man Andre had never met knocked on the door of the apartment above the shop on Bankhead Avenue. Andre opened it. The man asked if he was Andre Thibodeau. Andre said yes. The man placed an envelope in his hands and said he had been served. Andre stood in the doorway, holding the envelope. He could not read what was inside it. He called a lawyer that afternoon. A woman named Grace Kimball on Campbellton Road, who charged $200 for an initial consultation. Andre could not afford, but paid anyway. She read the documents out loud in her office while Andre sat across from her and listened. The house on Larkin Street, Denise's name on the deed. The refinancing Andre had signed in 2019 had transferred full ownership. The joint checking account had been drawn down over the previous 6 months. Transfers to an account in Denise's name only. Small amounts at first, then larger. By the time the papers were served, $4,200 remained. The Chevrolet was titled in Denise's name. Andre had never checked. He had never thought to check. The workshop on Bankhead Avenue was still in Andre's name. The building lease, the tools, the inventory of wood, oak planks, pine boards, maple stock he had been saving for a dining set. A client in Druid Hills had commissioned 6 months earlier. A commission Andre could no longer complete. Grace Kimball read it all. Then she paused. She told Andre that contesting the deed transfer would require proving that he had not understood what he signed. She told him that process would take time and money he did not have. She told him that Denise's attorney had been building this file for months. Every document was in order. Every signature was genuine. Every transfer was technically legal. Andre sat in that office and listened to a stranger explain how 17 years of oak and pine and maple and walnut had been organized into a file that no longer included him. She took the house he built with his hands. She took the car he drove her to the hospital in when Naomi was born. She took 17 years of his labor and left him in a room above a woodshop that smelled like sawdust and silence. Denise told the children their father could not take care of them. She did not say she had taken everything that would have allowed him to. Elijah was 16. Naomi was 13. They went with their mother to a townhouse in Sandy Springs that Denise had leased 2 months before the papers were filed. She had planned the timeline. She had packed their rooms while Andre was in the shop working on the dining set he would never finish. Elijah called once. 3 days after they left. The call lasted 4 minutes. Andre asked if he was okay. Elijah said he was. Andre asked if Naomi was okay. Elijah said she was. Andre waited for something else. Elijah said he had to go. The line went quiet. Andre held the phone for a while after that. He set it on the kitchen table. He did not call back. Not because he did not want to. Because he understood that Denise had built a story for the children, and the story did not have room for a blind man in a room above a shop who could not drive them to school or help them with their homework or take them to the places they needed to go. He sat at the table with $4,200 to his name and no way to read the balance himself. The apartment smelled like sawdust. The shop below him was full of tools he could still feel in his hands but could no longer guide with his eyes. Bankhead Avenue moved on outside the window. Andre did not. Martha Osei was 61 years old. She had been selling fruit on the corner of Bankhead Avenue and Hollowell Parkway for 9 years. Every morning she was there. Every morning without exception. Sundays included. Holidays included. The only days she missed were the 2 days she spent in the hospital when her blood pressure dropped in the summer of 2020 and the paramedics came and she argued with them from the stretcher about who was going to watch the pot cart. She was born in Kumasi, Ghana. She came to the United States in 1992 through a cousin in the Bronx who worked in a garment factory on Nostrand Avenue. Martha worked in that factory for 4 years. She sewed linings into winter coats for a company that paid her $6.25 an hour and did not ask for papers she did not have. When the factory closed in '96, she moved to another job. Then another after that. Cleaning offices in Manhattan, washing dishes at a restaurant in Harlem, sorting inventory at a warehouse in Newark. Every job paid just enough to keep going. None of them paid enough to stop. She married Kwame Osei in 1998, a quiet man from Accra who drove a delivery truck for a linen company in Queens. They had one son, Kofi, born in '99. Kwame was diagnosed with lung cancer in 2011. He died in 2012. Martha was 47. Kofi was 13. The medical bills took everything Kwame had saved. Martha sold what she could. She kept going. Kofi left when he was 19. Went to Chicago with a woman Martha had met once. He left behind his daughter, Abena, 3 years old at the time. Martha did not hear from Kofi again. She raised Abena the way she raised Kofi, alone, with whatever she had. She moved to Atlanta in 2015 because a woman from her church in the Bronx had a sister in Bankhead who said the cost of living was lower and the winters were easier on old joints. Martha arrived with Abena, who was $800 and $900, and the name of a wholesale produce market on Forest Parkway, where she could buy fruit at prices low enough to resell. She applied for a vendor permit from the city of Atlanta. It cost $300 a year. She bought a used cart from a man in East Point for $275. She found her corner on Bankhead Avenue and set up every morning before 6. Oranges, bananas, mangoes when she could get them, peaches in the summer, apples in the fall. She made between $40 and $70 on a good day. Less when it rained, less in winter. She had no health insurance. She had no retirement account. She had Abena in a 2-bedroom apartment on the 2nd floor of a building, 3 blocks from the avenue, and a cart that she pushed to the same spot every morning at the same time. She had been watching Andre from across the street for 9 years. She saw him carry lumber through the front door of the shop. She saw the sign go up, Andre Thibodeau, Woodwork and Custom Builds. She saw Denise pull up in the Chevrolet in the evenings and wait in the car while Andre locked up. She saw the children in the back seat some nights. She saw the lights in the shop stay on later and later as the years went on. She saw the morning Andre walked into the doorframe because he misjudged where it was. She saw him standing on the sidewalk one afternoon, looking up at the sky, squinting, turning his head like he was trying to find something with the corner of his eye that the center could no longer hold. She saw Denise stop coming. She saw the moving truck on a Saturday morning. She saw boxes being loaded. She saw Denise standing on the sidewalk talking on her phone, while 2 men carried the dining table out of the house on Larkin Street. Martha did not know where they were taking it. She knew who had built it. She had watched him carry the wood for it into the shop 3 summers ago. Martha knew Andre before he knew her. She knew him before he went blind. She knew something about him that he had forgotten. A thing that happened 22 years ago on a street corner in a different city. A thing she never told anyone about. A thing that kept her pushing that cart past his door every single morning for 9 years without ever crossing the street to introduce herself, until the morning she did. On the 3rd morning after Denise left, Andre opened the door to the shop, and his foot landed on something that was not concrete. He stopped. He reached down. His hand found a paper bag, small. The weight of it fit in one hand. He picked it up. He brought it inside. He set it on the workbench and opened it with both hands. 3 oranges, 1 banana, a folded piece of paper tucked between the fruit. Andre took out one of the oranges. He held it in both hands. He turned it over slowly. He brought it close to his face. He breathed in. The smell was sharp and clean and sweet, and it filled the space between his hands like a small sun he could not see but could feel the warmth of. He almost put it back. He almost set the bag by the door and went back inside and sat at the kitchen table and did nothing the way he had done nothing for 3 days. He did not put it back. He stood there in the doorway of the workshop, holding an orange he could not see from a person he did not know, and he did not move for a long time. The paper. He unfolded it. He ran his fingers across the surface. There was writing on it. He could feel the indentation of the pen. He could not read a single word. He folded it again. He put it in the pocket of his flannel shirt. He kept it there. He did not know who left the bag. He did not know if it would come again. It came again the next morning. Same spot. Same kind of bag. 2 oranges, 1 banana, 1 mango. No note this time. The morning after that, 3 oranges, 1 apple. The morning after that, Andre stopped opening the door with surprise. He started opening it with something closer to expectation. He still did not know who. He listened. Every morning before he opened the door, he stood behind it and listened for a sound on the sidewalk. On the 7th morning, he heard it. Wheels. Small wheels on concrete. Rolling. Then stopping. Then the soft sound of a bag being placed on the ground. Then the wheels again. Rolling away. He opened the door. The bag was there. He stepped out onto the sidewalk. The morning air hit his face. He could hear the cart moving. Across the street. Away from him. He stood there listening to it go. He did not call out. He was not ready. He would need more time before he was ready for that. The bag came every morning. Every single morning. Andre stopped counting after the first month. He kept every note. 6 of them in total over those first weeks. All unread. All folded. All in the pocket of the same flannel shirt hanging on the hook behind the door. He did not throw them away. He could not read them, but he could not throw them away either. The first month passed like that. Anonymous. Quiet. A bag of fruit, and sometimes a note, and the sound of wheels, and nothing else. In the 3rd month, Andre heard the wheels stop, and this time he opened the door before the footsteps moved away. He stood in the doorway. He could not see who was there, but he could hear the breathing. Someone standing still across the narrow street. Close enough to hear, he said it out loud, not shouting, just enough to carry. I know someone is there. A pause, a long one. Then a voice, a woman's voice. An accent he could not place. Not Southern, something else. Something farther away. Yes. That was all, she said. You have been leaving these, Andre said. Yes. Why? She did not answer that. Not that morning. Andre stood in the doorway, and the woman stood across the street, and neither of them said anything for a while. Then the wheels started again. She left. She came back the next morning. 5:47. Andre was already at the door. He heard the wheels stop. He heard the bag being placed. He opened the door. She was still there. My name is Andre, he said. I know, she said. My name is Martha. That was how it began. By month 6, Martha was reading his mail. She would come at 5:47, leave the fruit, cross the street at 6, sit at the workbench, while Andre made coffee on a hot plate he had learned to use by counting seconds and feeling the heat of the mug. She would read the bills out loud. The power bill, the water bill, a letter from Grace Kimball about the divorce proceedings, a notice from the landlord about the building inspection. She read every word without comment. She did not editorialize. She did not say Denise's name with any particular tone. She just read. Andre learned things. He learned to fold his money differently. 1s folded in half, 5s folded into thirds, 10s left flat, 20s folded corner to corner. Martha taught him that. She had learned it from a blind vendor she knew at the wholesale market on Forest Parkway, who had been making change by touch for 11 years. He learned to organize his clothes by texture. Rough cotton work shirts on the left side of the closet, smooth button-downs in the middle, flannels on the right. He sewed small buttons onto the tags. 1 button for dark, 2 for light. Martha brought the buttons. Abina sewed them in. He learned to count steps the way he used to count measurements. 14 from the bed to the front door of the apartment. 22 from the apartment door down the stairs to the workshop. 9 from the workbench to the bathroom. Every distance memorized. Every route practiced until his body moved without thinking. Andre asked Martha once in the 8th month, You do not have to do this. I know. she said. He waited for more. There was no more. She picked up the power bill and kept reading. By the second year, Martha was walking with Andre to the grocery store on Hollowell Parkway. She described what was on the shelves. She read the labels. She told him which peaches were firm and which were soft and which had bruises on the side facing away from him. She told him the price of everything before he put it in the basket. She told him what Bankhead Avenue looked like each morning. The new mural on the wall of the barber shop. The construction on the lot where the laundromat used to be. The dog that slept on the porch of the house 2 doors down from the shop. She gave him the street the way a newspaper gives you the weather. Steady, daily, without drama. By the third year, it was routine. 5:47, wheels on concrete, the bag on the step, the door opening, coffee at 6, the mail, the news, the avenue. Andre waited for the sound of those wheels, the way some people wait for the sun. It was the most reliable thing left in his life. He asked her one more time, near the end of the second year. Not why she was doing it. A different question. What did the first note say? Martha looked at him. He could not see her looking. It said, "Eat something," she said. "You had not eaten in 2 days." Andre was quiet for a while after that. He reached into the pocket of the flannel shirt on the hook. He pulled out the folded notes. 6 of them. He held them in his hands. He had carried them for over a year without knowing what they said. Martha did not offer to read the rest. Andre did not ask. Some things do not need to be read to be understood. He put them back in the pocket. He kept them there for the next 3 years. Before Martha started crossing the street every morning, she averaged between $50 and $65 a day. On good days in summer when the peaches were in and the mangoes were ripe and people walked slower in the heat and stopped more often, she could push 70. That was enough. Enough for rent. Enough for Abena's school supplies. Enough for the electric bill and the groceries and the vendor permit renewal every January and the occasional pair of shoes when Abena outgrew the last pair, which happened every 4 months because the girl was 14 and growing faster than Martha could budget for. After she started helping Andre, the numbers changed. She was arriving at the corner later, not by much, 15 minutes some mornings, 20 on the days she stayed to read his mail or walk him through a bill that did not make sense. But 15 minutes on Bankhead Avenue at 6 in the morning is the difference between catching the early commuters and missing them, the regulars who stopped on their way to the bus, the woman from the nail salon who bought 3 bananas every Tuesday and Thursday, the man in the gray jacket who bought 2 oranges and a mango every single morning without fail for 6 years until Martha started showing up late and he found another vendor closer to the station. Her daily take dropped to 40, then 35. Then, on slow days in winter, when the cold kept people inside and the fruit moved slow, 28. Martha did not tell Andre. She did not mention the drop. She did not adjust the amount of fruit she brought him every morning. 3 oranges, 1 banana, sometimes a mango, always the same. She did not reduce it, she reduced other things instead. She ate the bruised peaches, the ones with soft spots she could not sell. She ate the bananas with brown patches that customers passed over. She ate the apples with small dents on the side that had been pressed against the bottom of the crate during transport. She told Abena the good fruit was for customers. She told herself the same thing. Abena needed $45 for a school field trip to the Fernbank Museum. Martha had the money. She paid it. Abena needed new notebooks in September. Martha bought them. Abena needed a graphing calculator for her math class that cost $32 at the store on MLK Drive. Martha bought it on a Thursday after a day that brought in $29 total. She did not skip meals. She shifted them. Dinner became fruit. Lunch became whatever was left from the morning. Breakfast was coffee and half a banana, while she sorted the cart at 5 in the morning in the parking lot of the wholesale market on Forest Parkway before the sun came up. Her weight dropped 7 pounds in 4 months. She did not notice it until a woman at the wholesale market who had known her for years said she looked thinner and asked if she was feeling all right. Martha said she was fine. She bought her crates. She loaded the cart. She pushed it to Bankhead Avenue. Andre did not know any of this. He did not know that the woman who read his mail every morning and brought him fruit and described the street for him was eating the fruit nobody else wanted. He did not know that her income had dropped by 1/3. He did not know that the time she gave him every morning was time she was taking from the only livelihood she had. He knew the sound of her cart. He knew her voice. He knew she arrived at 5:47. He did not know what 5:47 cost her. Denise Hargrove was living in a townhouse in Sandy Springs with a new lease and a new car payment and the dining table Andre had built by hand in the garage of the house on Larkin Street. She had 2 bedrooms for the children and a salary and a checking account that no longer had Andre's name on it. She did not eat bruised fruit. She did not push a cart in the dark. She was not mentioned here because the story does not need to say her name for you to think of her. Abena started coming to the workshop after school in the 4th month. Martha did not ask her to. Abena asked if she could. She had seen her grandmother cross the street every morning. She had seen the bags of fruit being prepared at 4:30 in the kitchen. She had heard Martha reading bills aloud at the table the night before so she could read them again to Andre without stumbling. Abena did not say anything about it for a while. One afternoon she came home from school, put her backpack on the kitchen table, and said she wanted to help the man across the street. Martha looked at her. "Help how?" "Read to him," Abena said. "I can read." She went the next day. She sat on the stool by the workbench and opened her geometry textbook because that was the class giving her the most trouble, and she figured if she was going to read out loud, she might as well read something she needed to study. Andre listened. He listened to the problem. He listened to the numbers. Then he asked her to read it again. She read it again. Andre was quiet for a moment. Then he walked her through it. Not the way a teacher would with formulas and steps on a board. The way a carpenter would. He told her that angles are not abstract. That a 45-degree cut is something you feel in your wrist when the saw meets the wood at the right angle. That measurement is not about numbers on a page. It is about understanding what those numbers do in the physical world when you apply them to something real. Abena got a B+ on her next geometry test. Her first grade above a C in that class all year. She came back the next day. She read him her history assignment. He told her about the 9th Ward. She read him a chapter from a novel for English class. He told her what New Orleans sounded like in the morning. She came every afternoon for the next 2.5 years. One afternoon she asked him a question that had nothing to do with schoolwork. "Mr. Andre, what does blue look like?" Andre stopped what he was doing. He was holding a piece of sandpaper in his right hand. He set it down. He was quiet for a long time, long enough that Abena thought he had not heard her. "It looks like the sound of rain on a tin roof early in the morning," he said, "before anyone else is awake, when the whole street is quiet, and the only thing you hear is the water hitting metal. That is what blue looks like." Abena did not say anything. She wrote it down in the margin of her notebook. She kept it there for the rest of the school year. Andre taught Abena how to calculate board feet in her head. Abena told Andre what the sunset looked like from the window of the apartment above the shop. Andre taught her fractions by describing how a piece of wood is divided. Abena described the colors of the fruit on Martha's cart each morning so Andre could picture what he was eating. He had not asked anyone to do that. She just started doing it. Andre had 2 children he could not see. Abena had a father who had chosen not to see her. Neither of them said that out loud. They did not need to. The space between them filled itself in slowly, the way sawdust settles into the grain of a workbench over years of use. Not forced, just present. 14 months after Denise left, Martha came to the apartment at 5:47, the way she always did. She left the fruit on the step. She crossed the street. She sat at the workbench. She drank the coffee Andre made. Then she said something she had not said before. "Come downstairs." Andre did not ask why. He stood up. He followed the sound of her footsteps down the stairs. 14 steps. He knew each one. His feet knew where the 3rd step creaked. His hand knew where the railing had a rough spot he had never sanded down. The workshop was below. He had not been down here in months. Not since the last client canceled the dining set commission he could no longer complete. The door was unlocked. Martha opened it. The smell came first. Sawdust and pine resin and the faint bite of varnish that had soaked into the concrete floor over 18 years. The smell had not changed. The room had not changed. Andre stood in the doorway and breathed it in. He walked forward. His hand found the edge of the workbench. Solomon's workbench was gone, taken by the water in 2005. This one Andre had built himself when he arrived in Atlanta. Maple top, pine legs, a surface he had planed flat by hand the first week he moved into this building. His fingers moved across it. Dust, a layer of it that had settled over months of no one working here. Underneath the dust, the wood was still smooth, still level, still true. He moved to the tool rack on the wall. His hand found the chisels, each one in its place, each one where he had hung it the last time he put it down. The hand plane, the block plane, the coping saw, the rasp. His fingers touched each handle the way you touch the face of someone you have not seen in a long time. Not rushed, careful, making sure it is still what you remember. Against the far wall were the lumber racks. He walked to them. His hand found the edge of a plank, oak. He could tell by the weight and the grain. He ran his fingers along the surface. The grain was tight. Straight. Good stock. He had bought this board 2 years ago for a client project that never happened because the client changed their mind. The wood had been waiting since then. He picked up a sheet of sandpaper from the bench, 150 grit, he knew by the feel. He pressed it to the oak and moved it along the grain. The sound filled the room. A sound he had heard 10,000 times. A sound his hands knew better than his ears did. The wood did not care that he could not see. The wood only cared that his hands knew what they were doing. They did. Martha sat on the stool by the door. She did not say anything. She watched a blind man sand a piece of oak in a workshop that smelled like the last 18 years of his life, and she did not make a sound. She did not need to. Andre did not need encouragement. He needed the wood in his hands. That was all. He worked for 2 hours that first morning, sanding, just sanding, feeling the surface change under his fingers from rough to less rough to something approaching smooth. When he stopped, his hands were covered in dust. He stood in the middle of the workshop and held them up in front of his face. He could not see them. He could feel them. They were still his hands. They still knew what to do. He came back the next morning, and the morning after. Martha mentioned something she had read about a woodworking program in San Francisco run by an organization called the Lighthouse for the Blind. A program where blind and low-vision craftspeople built furniture using adapted techniques and tactile measurement tools. She had found it in a magazine in the waiting room of Abena's dentist office. She told Andre about it the way she told him everything, plainly, without emphasis, like she was reading the weather. Andre listened. He did not say much, but the next morning he asked Martha to describe the tools in the catalog she had seen. She described them. He listened. Some of them he already did by instinct. Tactile rulers with raised markings. Click gauges that snapped at preset depths. He had been measuring by feel for months. He just did not know other people had built tools for exactly what he was already doing. By the end of the second month back in the shop, Andre was not just sanding. He was cutting. He was joining. He was building. Not furniture, not cabinets, not the things he used to make. He was building something specific. He did not tell Martha what it was. She saw the pieces taking shape over weeks. Oak side panels, a flat bottom with drainage holes, a folding canopy frame. Hinges he ordered through a hardware store on Lee Street, where the owner read him the catalog over the phone. He was building a fruit cart. Andre spent 3 months on the cart. He measured every joint by touch. He checked every angle with a sliding bevel he set by counting clicks. He sanded every surface until his fingers told him there was nothing left to take away. Abena came after school and described the wood to him, the color of the oak after the first coat of sealant, the way the grain darkened near the hinges. She told him where the surface was uneven, and he went back and sanded it again. He built a canopy frame that folded flat for transport and locked upright with a pin system he designed himself. He built a shelf underneath the main display surface for storing extra stock. He built a small lockbox into the side panel with a latch that closed flush so it would not catch on anything. He asked Abina to paint the name on the side. He told her what to write. She used a small brush and black paint and careful letters because she knew this mattered. The name read Martha's. When it was done, Andre asked Martha to come to the workshop. She came at 5:47. The cart was in the center of the room. She did not see it at first because the light was dim and the cart was against the far wall. Andre told her to walk forward. She did. She stopped. She stood in front of it for a long time. She ran her hand along the edge of the top panel. She touched the hinges. She lifted the canopy frame and felt it lock into place. She lowered it and felt it fold flat. She opened the lid of the lockbox. She closed it. She opened it again. She read her name on the side. She ran her finger across the painted letters. She did not say anything for a while. The workshop was quiet. The street outside was quiet. The only sound was Martha's hand moving across the wood. "You built this without seeing," she said. "I built it because you helped me see," Andre said. Martha did not respond to that. She put both hands on the edge of the cart and stood there with her weight resting against something a blind man had built for her in the dark. She stood there for a long time. Then she went upstairs and made the coffee herself that morning. Andre stayed in the workshop. He put the sandpaper away. He hung the tools back on the rack. He stood in the middle of the room with sawdust on his hands and the smell of oak in the air, and he did not need to see any of it to know exactly where he was. The new cart changed the corner. People who had walked past Martha's old setup for years without stopping were now stopping. The oak panels caught the morning light in a way that metal and plastic do not. The folding canopy gave shade that made the fruit look better. The lockbox meant Martha did not have to keep her cash in a zipper pouch under the display anymore. The cart looked like it belonged in a farmer's market in Decatur, not on a sidewalk on Bankhead Avenue. People noticed. They stopped. They bought. Martha's daily take went back up. 45. Then 50. Then on a Saturday in late October, when the weather was cool and the foot traffic was heavy, $68. She had not hit 68 in over a year. The cart did something else too. It started conversations. Customers asked about it. Where did she get it? Who made it? How much did it cost? Martha told them the truth. A carpenter across the street built it. He built it by hand. He built it blind. Most people nodded and moved on. One did not. Claudette Duplessis was 47 years old. Born in Lafayette, Louisiana, raised in a family that built cabinets for Cajun restaurants across Acadiana. Her grandfather ran a millwork shop on Jefferson Street until his hands gave out in 1989. Claudette understood wood the way Martha understood fruit, not as a product. As a material with memory. She had moved to Atlanta in 2008. She opened her first store in Buckhead in 2011, a small space on Roswell Road where she sold handmade furniture sourced from independent craftspeople across the South. She called it Rooted Home. She called it that because every piece in the store had roots, a maker with a name, a workshop with an address, a pair of hands she had met in person before she agreed to carry anything they built. By 2025, she had 3 locations: Buckhead, Virginia Highland, Decatur. She did not carry mass-produced pieces. She did not work with factories. She did not buy from catalogs. Every piece in every store came from a craftsperson Claudette had visited, spoken with, and watched work. She believed that the market for handmade furniture was not about the furniture. It was about the hands. People did not just want a table. They wanted to know who built it. They wanted a name, a place, a reason the table existed. That was what she sold. Not wood. Stories attached to wood. Claudette stopped at Martha's cart on a Thursday morning. She bought 3 oranges. She put them in her bag. She was about to leave when she looked at the cart again. She ran her hand along the top edge. She felt the joint where the side panel met the display surface. She looked at the hinge on the canopy. She opened the lockbox. She closed it. She looked at Martha. "Who built this?" she said. Martha told her. "The carpenter across the street. Blind. Built it by touch over 3 months. Oak. Every joint done by hand. Claudette did not say anything else that morning. She took her oranges. She left. 3 days later she came back. She did not go to the cart. She stood on the sidewalk across from the workshop. She could see through the window. Inside, a man was standing at a workbench running a plane along the surface of a board. His eyes were open, but they were not tracking the wood. His hands were doing the tracking. The plane moved in long, even strokes. The shavings curled off the edge in ribbons. The man did not look down. He did not need to. Claudette watched for 11 minutes. She counted because she checked her phone when she arrived and again when she left. 11 minutes of watching a blind man work wood the way her grandfather used to work wood. With certainty. With patience. With hands that did not guess. She crossed the street. She did not go into the workshop. She went to Martha's cart. She placed a business card on the edge of the display surface between a row of oranges and a pile of bananas. Then she left. Martha picked up the card. Rooted home. Claudette Duplessis. 3 locations. A phone number. A website. Martha read it twice. She put it in the pocket of her apron. She did not give it to Andre that day. She did not give it to him the next day either. She kept it in her pocket for 9 days. Martha had spent 3 years crossing the street every morning. She had spent 3 years being needed. She had spent 3 years knowing that at 5:47 the door would open and Andre would be there, and she would have a purpose that went beyond selling fruit to strangers on a sidewalk. She had someone to read to, someone to walk with, someone who waited for the sound of her wheels the way she used to wait for the sound of Kwame coming home from his shift. She was afraid. Not of Claudette, not of the business card, not of what it might lead to. She was afraid of what happens after. If Andre succeeded, if his work was seen, if people came, if money came, he would not need her anymore. He would not need the fruit, or the mail, or the walk to the grocery store, or the morning coffee at 6. He would have something bigger than what she could offer, and she would be back on the corner alone. This had happened before. Kwame had needed her. Then he was gone. Kofi had needed her. Then he left. Every person Martha had held close had eventually moved beyond the reach of her hands. She kept the card in her pocket and said nothing. But Martha also remembered something else, something older, something she had carried for 21 years without telling anyone. September of 2005. Martha had been in Atlanta for 3 months. She was selling fruit on a different corner than near a bus stop on MLK Drive. Her English was broken. Her cart was a folding table with plastic bins. She did not have a permit yet. She did not know she needed one. 3 young men came by on a Tuesday afternoon. They were not customers. They knocked the bins off the table. Oranges and bananas and mangoes rolled across the sidewalk and into the gutter. One of them kicked a mango into the street. Martha bent down to pick up what she could. She did not say anything. She did not look up. She had learned a long time ago that not looking up was sometimes the safest thing a woman alone could do. A truck stopped at the curb. A man got out, young, maybe 30, 31, work boots, sawdust on his jeans, hands that looked like they had been holding tools all day. He did not say anything to the young men. He walked past them. He crouched down next to Martha on the sidewalk and started picking up the fruit. He picked up every piece. He placed them back in the bins. He set the bins back on the table. Then, he reached into his pocket and pulled out 2 $20 bills. He held them out to her. Martha looked at the money. She looked at him. She shook her head. "Take it," he said. "That is what you lost today." She took it, $40, the exact amount she would have made that afternoon if the bins had not been knocked over. He turned to go. Then he stopped. He looked back at her. "My grandmother came from somewhere else too," he said. Then he walked to his truck and drove away. Martha never forgot his face. She never forgot the sawdust on his jeans. She never forgot the $40. She never forgot the sentence. My grandmother came from somewhere else too. It was the first time anyone in Atlanta had spoken to her with kindness in a language she was still learning. She remembered every word. She held it the way you hold something small and important that you cannot put down because putting it down means you might not find it again. When she moved to Bankhead Avenue 10 years later and set up her cart across the street from a woodworking shop with a sign that read, Andre Thibodeau Woodwork and Custom Builds, she recognized him. Older, thinner, the same hands, the same dust on his clothes. She never crossed the street to tell him. She never introduced herself. She sold her fruit, and she watched him carry wood through the front door. And she knew who he was, and she waited. She waited 9 years. Then he went blind. Then his wife left. Then she started crossing the street. She did not help him because he helped her once. She helped him because that is who she was. The fact that he had once been kind to her was not the reason. It was the confirmation. On the 9th day, Martha took the business card out of her apron pocket. She crossed the street at 6. She sat at the workbench. She drank the coffee. Then she said it. Someone wants to see your work. Andre was quiet. A woman, Martha said. She owns furniture stores. 3 of them. She watched you through the window for 11 minutes. I cannot see my own work, Andre said. That is why she wants to see it for you. Andre did not say anything for a while. He held his coffee. He set it down. He picked it up again. What is her name? He said. Claudette Duplessis, Martha said, rooted home. Andre nodded slowly. He did not say yes. He did not say no. Martha left the card on the workbench next to his coffee. She went back across the street to set up the cart. The card sat there all morning. By afternoon, it was in Andre's shirt pocket. Next to the folded notes Martha had left on his doorstep 3 years ago. Claudette came to the workshop on a Monday. Martha had called the number on the card the Friday before. She told Claudette that Andre would be there and that he did not like surprises and that she should come through the front door and announce herself because he could not see her walk in. Claudette arrived at 10 in the morning. She knocked. She said her name through the door. Andre told her to come in. She came in. The workshop smelled the way it always did. Sawdust and pine and varnish and the oak sealant Andre had been using on a side table he was building that week. Claudette walked through the space slowly. She did not rush. She touched things. She ran her hand along the top of the side table. She examined the fruit cart that was identical to Martha's. A second one Andre had started building the week before because a woman who owned a flower shop on Cascade Road had seen Martha's cart and asked if she could buy one. She looked at the bookshelves Andre had built before he lost his sight. The cabinets. The dining chairs. She looked at the pieces he had built after. The difference was there. The pieces he built blind had a different quality. Not better. Not worse. Different. The edges were slightly more rounded because his fingers had checked them more times. The surfaces were smoother because he sanded longer, relying on touch instead of sight to tell him when to stop. The joints were tighter because he measured with click gauges and checked with his fingertips instead of glancing and moving on. The wood had been handled more, touched more, known more. Claudette sat down on the stool by the door. She was quiet for a while. I have 3 stores, she said. I have been selling handmade furniture for 15 years. Every piece comes from a craftsperson I have met in person. I do not buy from catalogs. I do not buy from factories. I buy from hands. Andre stood at the workbench. He did not face her directly because it did not matter where he faced. He listened. I would like to carry your work, she said. Not buy it from you. Carry it. Your name on every piece. Your story on every tag. I handle the sales. I handle the delivery. You build. You keep your name. You keep your shop. Andre was quiet. I build by touch now, he said. Every piece will be imperfect. Claudette looked at the side table. She looked at the joints. She looked at the surface. I have been selling perfect furniture for 15 years, she said. Nobody remembers any of it. Andre did not respond right away. He set his hand on the workbench. He pressed his palm flat against the maple surface. Solomon would have approved of. He kept it there. "There is a maker's market in 2 months," Claudette said. "Atlanta Maker's Market at Ponce City. I have a booth. I would like your work in it. 7 pieces. Whatever you can build between now and then. Think about it." She stood up. She placed a folder on the workbench. Terms, commission structure. Details Martha could read to him later. She walked to the door. "I do not buy people's hands," she said. "I give them a place to work." She left. Andre stood in the workshop alone. He could hear her car start outside. He could hear the sound of Martha's cart across the street. He could hear Bankhead Avenue moving the way it always moved, steady and indifferent, and full of people going somewhere. He picked up the folder. He held it in his hands. He could not read it. He would need Martha for that. He would need Martha for a lot of things still. That had not changed. He set the folder down. He picked up the handplane. He went back to work. Elijah Thibodeau was 18 years old when he saw the article. A local blog that covered the Bankhead corridor had run a short piece about a blind carpenter who was building handmade furniture in a workshop on the avenue. The article included a photograph of the fruit cart. It included Andre's name. It included the name of the street. Elijah read it on his phone in his bedroom in the townhouse in Sandy Springs. He read it twice. He sat with the phone in his hand for a long time. Then he called his father. Andre's phone rang at 7 in the evening. He was in the workshop. He was sanding a nightstand for Claudette's booth at the Maker's Market. He heard the phone. He picked it up. He did not recognize the number because the phone read it aloud and the number was not saved. He answered anyway. "Dad," Elijah said. Andre did not say anything. He held the phone. He pressed it against his ear. He had not heard his son's voice in over 2 years. He had imagined it deeper. It was, but underneath the depth was the same hesitation that had been there the last time Elijah called 3 days after Denise left, when the boy was 16 and did not know what to say and said nothing that mattered and hung up too. Quickly. "I saw an article," Elijah said, "about you, about the shop." Andre waited. "I should have called sooner," Elijah said. Andre was quiet for a moment, a long one. He set the sandpaper down on the bench. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other. He breathed in and breathed out. "You are calling now," Andre said. "That is what matters." They talked for 23 minutes. Elijah told Andre about school, about graduating, about a job he had at a hardware store in Roswell, about Naomi, who was 15 now and quiet in the way teenagers are quiet when they carry something they are not ready to name. Andre listened. He asked questions. He did not ask about Denise. Elijah did not bring her up. 2 days later, Denise called. Andre was at the kitchen table. 5:47 had already passed. Martha had already come and gone. The coffee was cold. His phone rang. The automated voice read the name. Denise Hargrove. He let it ring 3 times. Then he picked up. Her voice was soft, careful, the voice of someone who had rehearsed what she was going to say. She said his name first. She asked how he was. She said she had heard from Elijah that he was working again. She said she was glad. She said she had been thinking about him. She said she was sorry. She said she had not handled things the right way. She said she wanted to know if there was anything she could do. Andre listened to every word. He did not interrupt. He did not respond to the apology. He did not respond to the concern. He did not respond to the offer. He waited until she was done. Then he spoke. "You left when I could not see," he said. "Do not come back now that others can." He set the phone on the table. He did not hang up. He just set it down. Denise said his name once more. The sound of it went into the empty room and stayed there. After a while, the call ended on its own. Andre sat at the table, not angry, not satisfied. He sat in the kitchen above the workshop on Bankhead Avenue, where Martha had read him his mail that morning, and where Abena had described the color of the sky the afternoon before, and where Claudette's folder sat on the counter with terms he had agreed to and work he was building. He sat in the life he had put together without the woman who had taken the one he built before. He did not need her to be sorry. He did not need her to come back. He needed her to understand that the door she walked out of was not the same door anymore. 3 weeks later, a letter arrived, handwritten. The return address was Sandy Springs. The name on the envelope was Naomi Thibodeau. Andre held it. He could feel the pen marks through the paper. He carried it upstairs. He waited for Martha. Martha came at 5:47. Andre handed her the letter. "Read this," he said. Martha opened the envelope. She unfolded the paper. She read it, slowly, all the way through. When she was done, she folded it back. She put it in the envelope. She set it on the table between them. Neither of them said anything for a while. Martha drank her coffee. Andre held the envelope in his hands. Whatever Naomi wrote, it stayed between the paper and the two people in that kitchen. It did not need to go any further than that. The Atlanta Makers Market at Ponce City Market opened on the first Saturday in November. Claudette had a booth on the main floor near the east entrance. She had reserved a table and a half for Andre's work. Martha drove Andre and Abena there in a borrowed van that belonged to the woman who owned the flower shop on Cascade Road, the same woman who had bought the second fruit cart. Andre's booth had 7 pieces: a nightstand in oak, a bookshelf in pine, 2 dining chairs in walnut, a side table in maple, a small writing desk in cherry, and the display model of the fruit cart, the third one he had built identical to Martha's with the same folding canopy and lockbox, and the name Martha's painted on the side by Abena in black letters. Each piece had a tag. Martha had written the tags. Each one had the name of the piece, the wood type, and a single line about Andre. She kept it simple. She did not exaggerate. She wrote the truth. Built by hand. Built without sight. Built on Bankhead Avenue, Atlanta, Georgia. That was all. The doors opened at 9. By 9:15 people were walking the floor. By 9:45, someone had stopped at Andre's table. A woman in a gray coat who picked up the nightstand tag and read it, and looked at Andre, and looked at the nightstand and touched the surface. She asked if he had really built it without seeing. Andre said yes. She asked how. He said he built it the same way he built everything, with his hands. The hands knew what to do. The eyes had never been the ones doing the work. She bought the nightstand. $360. By 11, the bookshelf was sold. $420. By noon, the writing desk was sold. $510. The dining chairs went together to a couple from Inman Park for $680. The side table sold to a man who owned a restaurant in Decatur for $290. 5 of 7 pieces. Sold before 1 in the afternoon. Claudette took orders for 3 more nightstands and 2 bookshelves from customers who had seen the work and wanted the same. She wrote the orders on index cards and tucked them into the folder she carried. Then a man stopped in front of the fruit cart. He was older, gray beard, work jacket, hands that looked like they had held tools at some point in their life. He stood in front of the cart for a while without touching it. He looked at the joints. He looked at the canopy hinge. He looked at the name on the side. "Who built this?" he said. Martha was standing next to the booth. She looked at the man. She looked at the cart. She looked at Andre, who was standing behind the table with sawdust still on his forearms from the morning. "A blind man who builds better than anyone who can see," she said. The man looked at Martha. He looked at Andre. He nodded slowly. He bought the cart. $1,800. More than Martha made in a month selling fruit on Bankhead Avenue. The cart Andre had built for a woman who brought him oranges was now worth more than everything she earned in 30 days of pushing a cart in the heat and the cold and the rain. Martha did not say anything when the man handed over the money. She stood next to the booth and watched Claudette process the payment, and she did not make a sound. By 4 in the afternoon, the booth was nearly empty. The last 2 pieces, the second dining chair and a small cutting board, Andre had added at the last minute, sold to a woman who said she collected work by Southern craftsmen and that Andre's was the best she had seen at a market in 3 years. The crowd thinned. The noise settled. Claudette folded up the table. Martha stacked the tags. Abena swept the floor around the booth. Andre stood in the middle of the space with nothing left to sell and a list of orders in Claudette's folder and the sound of a room that had been full of people who touched his work and paid for it and took it home. His name was on every piece. His name. Andre Thibodeau, Woodwork and Custom Builds, Bankhead Avenue. Not Denise's name, not a company's name, his. The same hands that had built a porch and bookshelves and a dining table and a toy chest for people who left him in the dark had now built 7 pieces that strangers paid money for and carried out the door. His name was on every single one. When the hall was quiet and the lights were being dimmed, Andre and Martha and Abena sat on the folding chairs behind the empty table. They did not say much. Abena leaned her head against Martha's shoulder. Martha looked at the space where the fruit cart had been. "I cannot see what we built today," Andre said. Martha was quiet for a moment. "I can," she said. "It looks exactly like something your grandfather would have been proud of." Andre nodded. He pressed his palms flat on his knees. The same hands that Solomon Thibodeau had trained on Dauphine Street in the 9th Ward of New Orleans 60 years ago. The same hands that Hurricane Katrina could not take. The same hands that blindness could not stop. The same hands that Denise did not understand were the most valuable thing she had ever been married to. He sat in that folding chair, and he did not need to see a thing. Denise Hargrove was living in Sandy Springs. She had the townhouse. She had the car. She had a job that paid the bills. She had a life that looked on paper like the life she wanted. But Elijah was calling Andre now. Naomi was writing Andre letters. The children she had taken with her were finding their way back to the man she had left behind. Denise was not destroyed. She was not bankrupt. She was not the subject of a federal investigation or a public scandal. She was something quieter than all of that. She was a woman who left a man when he needed her and returned when he no longer did. She would carry that for a long time, not as punishment, as fact. The kind of fact that sits in the room with you at dinner when the chair across from you is empty and you remember that it did not have to be. Martha Osei was still selling fruit on Bankhead Avenue, the new cart, the good spot. More customers now, because word had traveled about the blind carpenter across the street and people came to see the shop and stayed to buy oranges. Her daily take was back up. 60 on most days, 70 on good ones. Abena got a partial scholarship to a magnet school in Midtown for the following year. Her geometry grade had been an A- by the end of the term. Martha never told Andre about the day on MLK Drive 21 years ago. She never told him about the oranges on the sidewalk. She never told him about the $40 or the sentence he said before he drove away. She did not need him to know. She did not help him because he helped her once. She helped him because that is who she was. The fact that he had once been kind to her was not the reason. It was the confirmation. Denise looked at Andre and saw a man who could no longer build her life. Martha looked at Andre and saw a man. That was the difference. That was always the difference. Some people only see you when you are useful to them. When the usefulness ends, they leave. They do not look back. They do not ask what you need. They do not cross the street. Other people see you. Not what you produce, not what you earn, not what you build or carry or provide. They see you, and when the lights go out, they stay. They bring oranges. They read your mail. They describe the color of the sky. They sit with you in the dark and do not ask for anything in return. Andre Thibodeau lost his sight. He lost his wife. He lost his house. He lost his children for 2 years. He lost everything a man can lose that shows up on paper. He kept his hands. He kept his name. He kept the woman across the street who saw him before he knew she was looking. Denise took the house he built. She took the car. She took 17 years of oak and pine and maple and walnut and left him in a room that smelled like sawdust. She thought she left him with nothing. She left him with his hands. And his hands were enough. If someone left you at your lowest and came back when you rebuilt, would you let them back in? Or is the door they walked out of the same door that stays closed? Leave your answer below. This one is going to divide the room. If this story reminded you that the people who show up when you have nothing are the ones who actually see you, send it to someone who needs to hear that right now. Subscribe. See you in the next one. One last thing before you go. This story is fictional. The names are made up, the addresses are invented, but the truths inside it are not. Diabetic retinopathy affects roughly 7.7 million Americans. Black adults are nearly twice as likely to develop it as white adults. It is the leading cause of blindness among working-age people in this country, and early detection can slow it down significantly. If you have diabetes, get your eyes checked. If someone you love has diabetes, remind them to get their eyes checked. It takes one appointment. Street vendors like Martha work 12-hour days with no benefits, no health insurance, and no safety net. They feed neighborhoods. They know their customers by name. They show up when it rains, and when it does not, and when nobody stops, and when everybody does. They are part of the fabric of every city in America, and most of them are invisible to the systems that are supposed to support them. And blind craftsmen do exist. Organizations like the National Federation of the Blind and the Lighthouse for the Blind have documented hundreds of artists, woodworkers, and makers who continue building after losing their sight. Their work is extraordinary. Their stories deserve to be told. I wrote this story because I believe the people society overlooks are often the ones holding everything together. The fruit vendor, the carpenter, the grandmother raising her grandchild alone, the neighbor who crosses the street when nobody else does. These are not background characters. They are the story. If you or someone you know is experiencing vision loss, the National Eye Institute at nai.ni.gov offers free resources and information. If you are a street vendor or small business owner who needs support, your local Small Business Development Center can help. If this story felt real, it is because these lives are real, even if the names are not.